It's a great opportunity for us to reflect on what's been discussed over the last few days when it comes to AI. And the discussions have been varied. They've focused on regulation, policy, tech challenges, opportunities, the scary stuff. Vishal Sikka needs no introduction, but I think his views are very important. And I think this conversation will be one based on a realistic assessment of the opportunities and challenges of AI. There are few people anywhere who are more attuned to the prospects of AI, both internationally and in India, than Vishal Sikka, and it's great to have this opportunity of speaking to you. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Vishnu. It's a pleasure to be here. And thanks, Naren, for inviting me, for thinking of me. Thanks, Rekha. Where is Rekha? Thanks, Rekha, for hounding me. She must have sent me 2,000 messages.
So I found some of your comments at the AI Summit fascinating. And one of the things that you said is that AI is inherently hallucinatory. Why?
So, first of all, current AI, current generation AI, which is generative AI, is inherently hallucinatory. So, if you think about the way AI systems used to be back in the 80s or early 90s, they were based on rules that you would write. So let's say you had to approve a credit card transaction or give someone a loan. There were prescribed, well-defined rules. Even doctors who would make diagnoses were doing it based on rules. The benefit of that was that, if the answer to a loan application was no, you knew exactly why that was given a no, and if the answer was yes, you knew why it was given a yes. Of course, these techniques were very brittle, and that approach to AI did not work. It has been replaced by this deep neural networks-based approach. But what happens in generative AI is that large language models, which are at the heart of this generative AI, today's AI, they synthesize a vast amount of data. So you take all of Wikipedia, you take every digital book that has ever been written, and it goes into these big models. And so when you are giving a prompt to ChatGPT or to Claude or what have you, it is not actually answering the question that you ask or providing the answer to your prompt, response to your prompt. It is generating the next most likely word. It's actually a token, which is a piece of a word. And then the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that. So when you say, who was Barack Obama's father, it actually has no idea what Barack Obama is or what a father is. It simply puts the next most likely word after that and the word after that. So in that sense, actually every response from an LLM is a hallucination.
Right.
It is only hallucinating. I like to think of it that way because then I can stay sane when I see a really fantastic response from these LLMs. It is fantastic because it appears fantastic to you, based on your intelligence. The answer itself is a hallucination. So I think this is a very important thing to keep in mind, and every time I teach a class or do a session on AI, I always request people, and I will request all of you, every single one of you, and I expect that all of you are using these bots, Claude or Gemini or what have you. Please go today, next time you interact with a bot, get it to make a mistake. Engage with it on some topic on which you are an expert, and every one of us is an expert on some topic or the other. Please engage with it to the point that you put it into a corner where it makes a mistake. And at that moment, when you achieve that mistake, reflect on how it made that mistake. What happened?
You are basically saying it's there, but don't necessarily trust it. Look at it carefully before taking a call.
Exactly.
But what I'm suggesting, and based on what I have read, is that if you look at the latest iterations of various AI agents, the fact that the system is improving upon itself, the fact that the pace at which new iterations are appearing, and that the latest iterations are way more advanced than previous ones, have led some to believe that it's essentially out of control, and that when you talk about a kill switch being there, there are those who suggest that it tries to protect itself. Is that true?
Yes, these models will act in a way to protect themselves when when they feel that they are being tested. But what does that mean? They have absolutely no idea what it means to be tested. They have absolutely no idea what it means to protect themselves. What it simply means is that in the vast amount of training that they have received, there have been instances where things that were down in the path of being tested led to things that were in the path of them trying to avoid the testing. And they are imitating that behavior. It is not that some ghost out of a miracle is emerging from this machine and figuring out that I must save myself because this evil human is trying to control me. It's not that. It is a reflection of the training material that has been given into these. It is like, can I say that this microphone is turning evil? Or that light bulb is turning evil?
No, but the challenge therefore lies when AI offers quote unquote empathetic answers to individuals who seek assistance or information based on an emotional requirement. That can result in people being misled.
Our communication, I want to give you one example, and this is because this is a very serious topic. First of all, I have a very different view on it, and my view in a nutshell is that the builders of AI have to take responsibility for AI's behavior. But I will give you one example. We all communicate. Especially since the pandemic, our digital communication has simply exploded. Everyone here is on WhatsApp. Every time I talk to Naren, it's on WhatsApp. And you get a crystal clear call. But you have to understand that a person sitting in California, talking to a person sitting in Mumbai, that communication is traveling through satellites, it is traveling through undersea cables. It is an inherently error-prone communication. The transmission from the source to the receiver goes through an incredible amount of errors. We correct those errors. Every communication, every picture that you see, my picture that is coming across on this television is going through a vast amount of error correction. That error correction is also error-prone. So we figured out over the last 175 years of electronic communication how to take an inherently erroneous medium and using erroneous techniques produce a thing that does not make errors. So why are we not able to do this for AI?
I think the question which countless people have everywhere across the world, and I had the opportunity of interviewing Kristalina Georgieva, the IMF's MD yesterday, who told me right up off the bat, within 2 to 5 years, 40% of jobs will be impacted around the globe. 25% in India will be impacted in 2 to 5 years. And impact means either massive job losses, jobs will disappear, or the nature of the job will change. Therefore, are we, in her words, on the verge of a rail tsunami, which is going to impact our lives massively? What is your view on this? That's the scary part, at one level, if you ask me.
I live by the motto that one of the great teachers of my life, Alan Kay, has, that the best way to predict the future is to invent it.
So it's invented.
I think that what will happen over the next 5 years, I like to be on the camp that it is up to us what happens in the next 5 years. Now, let us look at the potentials. One way to think about your question is, what is the potential? Can there be a massive job loss? Yes, absolutely. Can we prevent it? Yes, absolutely. How do we prevent it? By training, by teaching people what AI can do for them, by making it available to them, by making them do the exercise that I requested all of you to do. Not just use it, don't just believe what it says, get it to make a mistake. Once you get it to make a mistake, you realize that, oh, this thing doesn't actually know enough about everything, and I can get it to make a mistake. So you inherently build in the mechanisms of how do you safeguard it and how do you do error correction on it and things like that. So let us think about the topic of jobs for a second. There is no doubt that knowledge work, routine procedural work can be done much more efficiently with AI. There is no doubt that software development can be done much more efficiently with AI. In my speech, I don't know how many of you heard my speech? I want to see if I should repeat this example or not. Actually, nobody has heard it.
No, repeat it. It was fascinating.
The software development with generative AI is an incredibly powerful application. And the statement that I would like to make to all of you is that in the hands of people who know what they are doing, you can achieve an astonishing efficiency gain.
No, but let me turn that around a little bit. And I think it's important to dwell a little bit on potential numbers. Baseline lawyers who process information for their seniors, even now may not be required. Researchers, I have used a researcher on my programs for years. I don't anymore. I use AI for information. I cross-check it against, I use Grok and Gemini. I cross-check one against the other. I don't need a researcher anymore. That's another job that's gone. Number crunchers, chartered accountants. The machines are already way smarter than that.
Yeah.
And of course, software coders.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right. So that translates into many millions of jobs all around the world.
I understand.
So where do those people go?
Believe me,
they've trained
I have been making the same point for the last
No, but what you are
couple of
saying now
decades.
is that we need to check what can be done. I think the doomsday prophets, in a sense, say that, entry-level jobs are done for across so many areas. I've named 4 of them.
So, stenographers, we used to have stenographers, they are gone.
Translators, also gone.
Translators are gone. If you look at agriculture over a longer time horizon, we used to have 97% of the US economy used to be working in agriculture, and now less than 1% does, and yet we have an obesity problem. And so the transition from a previous technology to a new technology happens all the time. Job loss as a result of that happens all the time. I think one argument that is clear is that this is happening here. I think it is happening at a much more compressed rate because of the rapid expanse in technology. And therefore the job loss and the job transformation will be severe and it will be rapid.
I completely get what you're saying, and I'm sorry if I'm turning out to be a doomsday prophet. But one of the things I professionally follow very closely is the emergence of autonomous weapon systems. And this ties into the entire issue of ethics. In as much as you get answers from AI for several of the questions, for example, which you asked of the machine, in the battlefront, in Ukraine, the latest generation of drones, because they were being jammed, are now deployed as being autonomous. And these machines decide who lives and who dies. There are no ethical standards. Who decides ethics? Why should I as a country hold back on a technology which helps me militarily? How does one stop China? How does one stop Russia, Ukraine, wherever, or North Korea? Why should they be listening to anybody?
At the risk of sounding repetitive, I will repeat the same thing, but I will use a different example. Yes, OpenClaw, I don't know if you guys are familiar with OpenClaw or this Moltbot thing that happened in the last week. It is an astonishingly dangerous situation. Giving control of your computer, your messaging systems to these agents and doing it at such a hyper speed, at a hyper scale, is an incredibly bad idea. It can lead to catastrophic things. So I don't know if I can use even stronger words than that, but that's pretty strong. At the same time, I will submit to you that we dropped the first atomic bombs in 1945?
Yes.
There has not been a single bomb dropped since then on a civilian population. There have been 3 incidents, uncontrolled accident incidents: Chernobyl, Fukushima, 3 Mile Island. 3 in 81 years. We managed to keep this unbelievably destructive technology at bay, away from the hands of people, very bad people, who really wanted that technology, have not been able to do a single bad thing in 81 years. So why are we not able to do that here. It is not that God divined AI to be the thing that the rest of the world must not learn about because these chosen few people are the ones who are going to tell us how AI works. It is complete nonsense. It is simply a matter of learning about it, making up our minds, and going and putting the right guardrails on it. It is nothing more than that. We have done this before.
I think it's also important to focus on the really positive stuff. Research into cancer. Computers having the ability of making millions of calculations on what may be a good genetic fit to fight illness. We are already at that stage where we are on the cusp of major medical breakthroughs. Is this something that you'd like to address?
No, I do, but I want to make sure that we all understand that this is not just something that is happening to us and we are passive observers. It is within us to fix this. We can demand to fix this. The Prime Minister this week has demanded to fix this. His view and his vision around the use of AI is the most impressive, the most powerful, and the most grounded view that I have seen, basically from anywhere. The Manav framework that he put together, it's a very basic way to say that, you will make this stuff respond to democratic values in the interest of people and not do dangerous things.
We have our own ambitions of really stepping up on the LLM game. We have our own ambitions of an India stack. Yesterday we signed Pax Silica with America. One of the things that they were looking at is to export or to share their stack with us. And I suppose that's what countries would want to do. Their stack versus our stack. So we talk about Atmanirbharta, we talk about an Indian model, whereas our partners are saying, use our stack. Does that make sense to use somebody else's stack, or do we develop it all by ourselves? And can we in India?
I think we have to understand the layers of the stack, and over time we have to have our own. My strong view is India is big enough, India is important enough that we have to have all the layers of the stack from us, ourselves. At the same time, there is no harm in learning about what somebody else might offer to you, as long as it is plugging into your framework, as long as what is the cart and what is the horse is clear, or whatever, what is the hammer and the nail, or whatever the analogy is, the dog and the tail, you know what I mean. As long as that is the case, then we can use somebody else's pieces and plug them into our framework. There's nothing wrong with that. But dependence on something that we don't understand, that we don't have regulatory rights over, that is dangerous, and that we have to avoid. We are now in a position of power that is big enough that we should not be in that situation. And I feel that our government, of all the governments in the world, I think our government is in a leading position in terms of defining the capabilities of AI, the mandates around AI, and things like that.
Resilient supplies of chips. India and America have spoken very closely to it. Nobody can realize an AI ambition without having access to that. And chips are just not available at the pace that we need to have them. We want fabs to be set up in India. We've got certain models, but we're not developing it. We're not manufacturing at scale. For us to actually achieve anything, we need to have made in India chips, I would suggest.
Yes.
How far behind the curve are we on that?
So, I think that, again, you need a dual or a multi-pronged approach here, that on the one hand, you have to fight and get our rightful access to the chips and so on. We will have, the goal is to get to 200,000 or so by the end of this year. I think that is wonderful, or whatever the goal is. And then doing our own designs, which we are doing now, building our own fabs and things like this. We are already doing these, the AMPs, Micron, Sanjay Mehrotra is, I think Sanjay is here today. He is opening a fab, I think day after tomorrow or something, in Ahmedabad, where it's an AMP facility. It's the largest one So we are doing all of that. But at the same time, I think one very important thing is to look into the future, meaning don't just do what people are already doing, but look at where the ball is going to go and aim for that.
I think the point on energy is absolutely critical, and that's linked to infrastructure in our country, which we clearly don't have. To get to the data crunching ability that we seek. So there are no immediate solutions on this. You cannot step up energy availability overnight. But that's also true of any other place in the world.
Yeah.
So efficiency in energy solutions and AI going forward, where does the technology lie?
I think, one of the things the Prime Minister has articulated is a goal to be 10x on nuclear by 2047. I think that is a really powerful and very, very right, in the right direction goal. SMR technology for nuclear fission, we need that. We will also need to do research on fusion, which is still further out. But we have to be a leading player in both aspects of nuclear technology, for example, as well as on the green and the other forms of technology. We have become one of the leading producers on green energy. Energy is clearly a absolutely critical frontier for the time ahead. And in the current generation of AI, which is very energy inefficient, we need massive amounts of energy access and so on. I think we can do that. Beyond being self-sufficient, we can also export energy, I feel confident. So anyway, my point was it's a dual approach of competing and getting access in the here and now, but at the same time also doing the next generation stuff.
So one or two more questions. You are a visionary in this field. You wouldn't have done all those great things at Infosys and everything else had you not been one. But let's say a decade back, did you foresee this situation? Did you foresee an OpenAI? Did you foresee an Anthropic? Did you believe that that investments needed to be made in these companies?
So, well, we did. We participated in OpenAI's forming. We gave a small grant to OpenAI when it was started in 2015. At the time, when I was at Infosys, when I started there, AlexNet had just come out in 2012. AlexNet was the first computer vision network that beat human performance on the ImageNet benchmark. And so you could kind of see the trajectory already. So it was, it was sort of clear that things were going to head in this direction. There was a massive amount of work going on in natural language processing back then using pre-transformer techniques. So yeah, I think for people in the field, it was very clear that things were heading in this direction. And of course, the way things have exploded since 2023, nobody could foresee that kind of a thing. But by and large, the direction was very clear. And we did, we participated in, I gave a small grant to OpenAI from Infosys in 2015. People find it hard to believe, but it's there in their introductory blog when they announced their formation. Actually, other than Amazon, we were the only company that participated in them.
That's amazing. Maybe just two more questions. Robotics and the pace of robotics in an AI era. Is there a sense that the pace of development in robotics has not kept up to what we are seeing in AI?
It's a very, very hard problem. It's a much harder problem than we think. There have been tremendous advances in robots, in manufacturing robots, construction robots, things like that. This idea of, humanoid robots, this looks very good on television and all that. Believe me, this is a long way. Waymo, those of you who have been to San Francisco or planning to go to San Francisco, please do take a ride in a Waymo when you get a chance. It's an amazing experience to be driven in a car that has...
Would it work in India?
What's that?
Would it work on our roads?
In December, it also broke down in San Francisco. There was a major power failure because of a storm. And what happens is that as impressive as Waymo is, it needs to talk to a base that they have where a bunch of people sit there and observe what is going on. And they were not able to make that contact, so all the cars shut down, and then there was a very big traffic jam, and it was a mess. And so the point here is that the DARPA autonomous driving challenge was in 2006. And a car that one of my dear friends, Sebastian, built won that challenge. And it drove 2,500 miles autonomously. And individual stretches were 140, 150 miles, fully autonomously. This was 2006. So from 2006 to 2026, we have Waymo, an incredible engineering achievement. A humanoid robot might be able to dance in our living room, but it is not doing useful things anytime in the near future.
Look, it's been absolutely fantastic, Mr. Sikka, to speak to you. Thank you all so much, and I'd request all of you for a warm round of applause for Mr. Sikka.